Tom Kozlowski. Brady Fark is filling in for Armen Levack today on 104.5 The Team and 104.5theteam.com. And joining us, he's a sports anchor and reporter at Fox 46 in Charlotte. Josh Sims joins us. Josh, yesterday the Panthers, a big win on Thanksgiving. What was the most impressive part of the Panthers' win over the Cowboys yesterday for you?
I think it's the defense, and it's the way they jumped all over Tony Romo early. I mean, 3 snaps for the Cowboys, and they were already picked off for a pick six from Kurt Coleman, and then you had the one right before the half with Luke Kuechly picking off Romo twice in a matter of minutes. And, covering this team since I've been down here, we knew the defense was good, but, I mean, they seem to just be getting better week in and week out, and I think that's the most impressive thing. And then you look at a shutdown corner like Josh Norman, really kept Des Bryant out of the game. I mean, this defense right now is just clicking on all cylinders, so I think that's my biggest takeaway from that game.
This team is 11-0. They're one of the 2 undefeated teams in the National Football League. But when this game opened up in Vegas, the Dallas Cowboys were the favorite going into the game. Is this Carolina Panther team underrated? And if so, why does that continue to be the case as we head almost towards December now?
It's funny because, when that line came out last week, and I actually asked that question specifically to Ron Rivera, I was like, do you guys feel like you're getting disrespected? And he said, at the same time, he said, yeah, we do feel like we're getting disrespected, but there's been a number of games this week or this year where we've come in as the underdog for whatever reason, and they just, approach every game the same way, and they have that mindset that you could tell it's sort of a chip on their shoulder. You could tell they use that as motivation, that people still sleep on them, and I think it's because of the weapons that they have on offense. People don't really know. Ted Ginn Jr. is not a household name. Corey Brown, not a household name. Greg Olsen is, but the wide receivers, and then you got Jonathan Stewart. This is his first year as the feature back. Many people didn't know if he could be the every down back, and then you got Cam Newton, and he's obviously the big star, and people know about him, but they don't see the flashy names, and that's why a lot of people kind of overlook this team and think like, hey, what is scary about them? We know the defense, but on offense, can they really put up points? And when you lose Kelvin Benjamin in training camp, everyone kind of wrote them off as like, this is going to be another bad season for the Panthers. I mean, honestly, most of the media, that's what we all thought. And then that injury, honestly, has actually made Cam a better quarterback, the way he spreads the ball around now, the way he relies more on himself, and he's grown as a player almost because of that injury. But, yeah, a lot of people do sleep on this team. 11-0, you really can't anymore.
Josh, what makes Cam Newton so polarizing? Because, look, we like when Tom Brady throws the ball at the Cowboys at the back of the end zone. We like when Johnny Manziel flashes the money sign, when Colin Kaepernick kisses his bicep. But we don't like it when Cam Newton celebrates. So what is it that people aren't on board with him?
It's really hard to understand. And from the outside looking in, you may perceive him as one way because of all the issues he had in college. And coming out and the shots people were taking at him going into the draft. But, being here and covering him, and he's always said, I'm a big kid, I really, do this for the kids and to make people happy, and I just want to have fun. And you see how much he's not just a football player that people look up to, but he's involved in the community. He does a lot of stuff for people that they don't even see. And, yeah, a lot of people do that, but, I mean, it's one of those things where a lot of people don't see this stuff on the outside, and they don't see how much he helps the community and how much he's always, back to the football side of things, how much he's always watching film and he's always working at his game. But then people see him smiling all the time, and they think he's not taking it seriously, and they see him running around and having fun after he scores a touchdown and all that stuff. And from the outside, especially if you're rooting against him, you get upset about that, and you saw that, I don't know if you guys saw, but, after the Tennessee game where he did the celebration, a Nashville mother called him a poor role model and wrote into a local newspaper saying, he's not a good example for kids. And it's like, well, he actually is a good example for kids if you, read into the fine print and see what he does. But I think it's just, people just, for whatever reason, don't like him.
He is a sports anchor reporter at Fox 46 Charlotte. Josh Sims joins myself, Tom Kozlowski, and Brady Fark is filling in for Armen Levack today here on 104.5 The Team and 104.5theteam.com.
Josh, we were talking about Josh Norman earlier. You brought him up, a shutdown DB. Is he the next Richard Sherman? Does he like to talk as much as Sherman does? Because we heard his comments after the game yesterday saying that the Cowboys need to go get back Des Bryant's $70 million. What kind of player is he?
Yeah, he's a fiery guy, and the funny thing about that is, was just over at the press conference today. Ron Rivera spoke, and he was saying when Josh Norman first came in, he was that sort of fiery guy. He was a guy that liked to talk. He liked to be brash, flamboyant, and they kind of suppressed that a little bit when he first came into the league. And then Rivera admitted, like he said, hey, I have to let my guys be guys. I need to let these personalities be what they are. And he specifically pointed at Josh Norman. He's like, he's a great player because of that personality, because he's, to a sense, cocky, because he's brash. And that, that really shows. I mean, if you'll, and not everyone gets to see it unless the cameras are always on him, but if you watch him on every play that a quarterback will throw towards the receiver that he's covering, he makes the stop or he knocks the ball down, and he just has this air, this swagger after he knocks it down, like, hey, I did that. You're going to look at me, and you're going to see what I did, but at the same time, you're not going to want to throw this way. And he just has this sort of personality that just comes through the TV if you're watching, and you see him kind of wanting, I don't want to say wanting to be Richard Sherman, but he almost seems like a baby Richard Sherman the way he kind of acts on the field. All that's missing, I guess, is, a rant with Aaron Andrews after a game or something like that. We'll see if that happens.
Only 5 games remain on this Carolina Panthers schedule. 2 matchups with the Falcons, the Saints, and the Buccaneers. But sandwiched in between that, a matchup on December 20th with the New York Giants. This is your home for New York sports here in the Capital Region in Albany. Are the Giants the most likely team to end this Carolina Panther undefeated streak?
Yeah, that's the thing. When we look at the schedule in the final 5 games, kind of point at that one as one of the dangerous games, just because it's a road game. It's in New York, and you see what the Giants were able to do against the Patriots a couple weeks back. They get up for those types of games, especially a chance to knock off an undefeated team, and they just have this ability to play big in big spots. And even though they didn't come away with that win against the Patriots, they gave them a run for their money, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see that same kind of game plan won and that same kind of intensity against the Panthers. And you never know. I mean, this week, these guys keep saying day in and day out, it's hard to win games in the NFL. It's hard to win every game, and you never know when you're going to have an off day or when something's going to slip, and not saying the off day will happen against the Giants, but I think that's a team you can't afford to have an off day against.
I think when we look at the NFC playoff picture, everyone would agree that it's hard to win a playoff game in January in a place like Seattle or Green Bay or New York because of the weather. As an NFC team, I'm all right with the idea of home field advantage being in either Arizona or Carolina because you're going to play in favorable conditions. If that's the case, what makes the Panthers so good at home, and what's their home field advantage like? Because they won't have the weather on their side like a team like Green Bay would.
Right, yeah, and it's the fans around here are really, really buying into the Panthers, especially obviously with them starting 11-0. But it's funny because Greg Olson was talking about it today. When the Panthers flew back from Dallas last night, there were about 100 people waiting in the parking lot. This is on Thanksgiving, in basically I'd say 11, 12 o'clock at night. People waiting for the Panthers, cheering them on after they came in, as if they had just won the Super Bowl, and that's the type of fanhood and that's the type of home field advantage that they are creating here in Carolina. That these fans are so into their team that they create this great home field advantage. But not just that, on the road, I've been to a number of the road games. I would say in Jacksonville at the opener, it was about 50-50 with Carolina and Jacksonville fans. Same thing with the Tennessee game. These Panthers fans don't just create a home field advantage. They travel on the road, and they make sure their team knows they're there. And, Cam Newton always makes it a point to find the hometown crowd, and you can hear the chants when you're on the road of Luke Kuechly. He makes a tackle, and you hear, Luke, and you're like, where am I? Am I at home or they're on the road? How is this happening right now? But these fans are really all on this team, and I'd say, from the outside looking in, they are creating a great home field advantage for this team.
Tom Kozlowski and Brady Farkas here on 104.5, the team, and 104.5theteam.com. And joining us, he's a sports anchor and reporter at Fox 46 in Charlotte, Josh Sims. And Josh, when it's all said and done here at the end of the NFL regular season, who's going to be the league MVP, Tom Brady or Cam Newton?
I think you got to look at, I cover Carolina, so obviously my vote's going to go towards Cam Newton. But, when you look at the numbers, I don't think they tell the whole story. Brady's obviously going to have the better numbers when it comes to passing, when it comes to completion percentage, when it comes to touchdowns most likely. Cam has always sort of struggled to get that completion percentage. He's hovering around 50%. But, you can't take into account what he does with his feet and what he does from a leadership standpoint. I mean, this team, he has, I think, 7 rushing touchdowns this season, something Tom Brady can't do. This team leads the league in rushing. A large part of that is Cam Newton. And this team is 11-0. A large part of that is Cam Newton. And, what he's able to do to rally this team and what he's able to do from a leadership standpoint, I think you got to give him the nod. And I know Tom Brady's having another great season, but I think, what Cam Newton's doing this year is just something special.
Josh Sims, Fox 46 in Charlotte. Josh, thank you so much for the time. We'll talk again soon. Take care.
All right, no problem. Take care, Brady.
Thanks, Josh.